And so I'll talk about some Photoshop basics, layers, pixels, tools in Photoshop, how to get your files into Unity, how to edit them once they're in Unity, and then I'll dig in a little bit on the pixel art. So right now I have Photoshop open, I have Unity open. This is a student project from spring 2020. They have a very lovely, what they call a hell brick, and it's here in the artwork folder. And as you can see, it's a sprite. If I go into the sprite editor, you can see that there, first of all, the image is not 128 by 128 pixels, so it's not power of 2. Meaning that it won't compress very well in Unity. And you can also see that they've had to kind of fudge the sprite crop a little bit because it wasn't originally designed to fit neatly as a block. So it's a gorgeous hell brick made in MS Paint, and so I think that's awesome. But what happened is that, and you can see the difference here, the gap between the vertical and the horizontal does not match right. So there's a gap here, but doesn't match there. So the first thing we're going to do is talk Photoshop. So this is the Photoshop interface. This is a single file. You can undock separate windows like that. And the tools are on the left, the layers are on the right. And so one of the best things about Photoshop is that it has layers. And so you can turn layers on and off. You can get the move tool and move layers around. This is a text layer. So I'm going to show you the history palette so you can see all the stuff I've done here. I made a new document, edited the type, changed the layer, moved it around. You can also just go back and undo that change. So first, let's go get their file. I'm using GitHub Desktop to pull their file off the internet. So here it is. This is their original file. I'm just going to drag it right into Photoshop like this, and it's going to open up in a new window. So I'm going to zoom in, holding down Option. And I can see, first of all, by looking at the image size, that it is not a power of 2 image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Command A, Control A on a PC, and I'm going to copy this layer, and I want to make a new document, and I am going to make this one power of 2, 128 by 128, and RGB and 8-bit, so that works great. So now I'm going to paste it in there, and you can see it doesn't fit exactly right. So while I'm on the move tool, I can use the arrow keys and move things around like this, which is really nice. And I've got the rulers on. You can see those under View, Rulers. And I'm first going to drag a new ruler here. And you can see I can drag it to floating point values. That's not good. I want to undo that. And I'm going to snap to... I guess I've got snapping on. I want to snap to pixels. Let's show the pixel grid. I think that'll help a little bit. So, great. And I think under preferences is where I'll have to change my grid settings so that this actually shows up. So 1 grid line every pixel, and subdivisions are 4. The color is, I'll just do magenta, and that should show up, but it's not. Let's try show grid. There we go. So now you can see my pixel grid. It's a little crazy with the magenta, but you get a sense now. You can see that it is about 3 pixels by 4 4 pixels, that border, so that's not going to work. So we want to stick with 3 by 3. So I'm going to come down here to the shape tool, and I'll just click once, and now I can set the size of the rectangle I want. And so this is 128 by 128, so I'm going to subtract 3 from every corner, and so that'll give us 122 by 122. And now I'm going to turn off the grid for a second, or the guides, and now I'm going to get the move tool, drag this up here, and you can see it snapped in perfectly. Now I am going to change, I'm going to basically redraw their drawing here, but leave it in Photoshop layers so that it can then be edited very easily later on. So I'm going to double click the icon here, which will allow me to suck up that color. So there's that color, so that's good. And get this again, and I'm going to make 128 by 128, and this will be the background, which is that color. So, oops, I want to change this one. All right, cool. Now I got to put it in place, and turn off that one so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, cool. So now I'll move theirs on top. So now I can see just gonna pause. Okay, I'm back. So the next thing to do is a little bit more complicated. We need this red square here, so I'm just going to duplicate this layer, right click and duplicate layer, and move that one on top of that one. And we can see now that it is 11 pixels in. Did I get that right? There we go. And then it should be, we want to go 11 pixels down as well. So now I'm going to Command T is the universal free transform tool. So I can drag that, and as I drag, you can see it's scaling, but I want to scale equally in all directions. So I'm going to hold down Option, and now I can snap to this one right here and hit return to set that. So we can preview theirs on top, and we can see how we're doing that, but we're doing it with all the sides are kind of equal now. And again, you can see my pixels here, which will get really handy here in a little bit when I actually get deeper into that. Okay, so then the last one is to replicate the texture that they've drawn on top, this black texture. And so I am going to get the magic wand tool, which looks like this. And I'm going to, so what it does is it basically just samples a color. It's really easy. Right now I have anti-alias turned off. So it's going to, anti-aliasing is, let's see, that's what you see in this image here. Anti-aliasing takes a diagonal line and adds semi-transparent pixels along it, so that when you look at it at the regular size, it appears like a smooth diagonal line, even though you're on a pixelated screen. And so they are not using anti-aliasing, it's just straight pixels. It's either black or it's red. And so it's because I have anti-aliasing turned off, it was able to get it all. And because they're all connected, it sucked up everything. So now I'm just going to copy and paste. So now you can see layer 2 right there, and I'm going to move that down here. And so let's see what we've got now. So this is our creation. This is basically what they made here, except now it's broken up into these layers that are then editable later on. So a couple things I'm going to do here are I'm going to grab the move tool. I'm going to make sure it's hidden. And I'm going to move it up, right? And then I'm going to get the selection tool. Selection will let you select pixels on a layer. And I'm going to just clean up their work here. I'm going to highlight that or select it and then hit delete to remove it. And the same thing goes over here, and the same thing goes over here. And I'm not sure this is the effect they want, but I'm a designer, and I'm used to getting things pixel perfect. So that's my style. Okay, so this is Hellbrick. Basically is done. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete their layer, and I'm going to save, and I'm going to delete the background layer. So now I've just got basically only the artwork in here. And I'm going to save. And so I'm going to go into, let's see here, documents, code, Unity, student projects. This is where I've got their game stored here. And and I'm going to save this as Hellbrick Red. Okay. And so this is the new Hellbrick, and I'm going to save it. I'm going to keep the layers. It's going to be a Photoshop document, a PSD. And I'm going to leave that on. And so now I'll flip over to Unity, and we'll see my Hellbrick over here, and we see that they had 32 pixels tight. So I'm gonna mimic their import settings here, and yes, thank you. And they have theirs set to multiple. I'm gonna leave mine at single because that's just fine. And pivot is center. Yeah. If there's just one, we don't need multiple. And then it looks like they left everything else on. Oh, compression. Thank you. 2048 Mitchell automatic. Okay, cool. It looks like everything else. Oh, point no filter. Okay, so good. All right, I think I've got all the same settings now. All right, and so this is their test scene and their grid and their tile map. So I'm not going to mess with their tile map. I'll let them do that work, but I just want to throw this directly onto the into the game window, and oops. Oh, duh. I needed to make a so Hellbrick Red test, and add a sprite render, and then we can use our sprite. All right, and now I need to move it here where we can compare the differences between the new one and the old one. And you can see there are none. The only difference really is that the edges are cleaned up, but you can see nothing has been changed really. Cool. So that's like so that's the Hellbrick. So the super cool thing about this is that now that I've got one Hellbrick, I can do files, save as, and well, first of all, let's say I decide that this color is not working. Let's say there's too much orange in it, or it's it's too gross. There's something we don't like about that, and so I'm just gonna get that original color, and then just make like a maybe something slightly different. Right, so it's not very different, but we'll do maybe an orange or something, and There, how's that? I actually don't think I improved it, but that wasn't the point. The point is to show the difference. So now all I got to do is save it. I don't have to flatten it. I don't have to export a JPEG or PNG file. All I have to do is just hit save. And once I go back to Unity, Unity immediately recognizes that I made that change and re-imports the file and shows the update file. I don't have to mess with the sprite editor or anything. So let's undo that. When I go back, immediately it's back. So that's pretty cool. So now I can also duplicate this really well and just do, I'll do save as, and I'm going to say Hellbrick Blue. And so now it's going to be right next to the original Hellbrick, so it'll show up in Unity once we're done. And I'm going to go, I'm not going to change the saturation or brightness. All I'm going to do is change the hue of this so that they kind of, so if I drag the hue slider, I'll go down here until it's like a blue, and that looks good. And then I'll get this one up here because it's the same color. I'll double click and just suck that up. And now I'll get the rectangle one. And again, I'm not going to change the saturation or brightness. I'm just going to change the hue to kind of match the old Hellbrick. And so now Hellbrick Blue is basically done, and I save, and I'll go over to Unity, and here's Hellbrick Blue. I'll make the updates here. It's 32 pixels per unit, no filter, and no compression, and apply. And now I'll duplicate Hellbrick Red Test, and I'll change it to Blue Test, and we'll use that blue one as the sprite there, and I'll drag it, and there we go. So implementing this inside of the grid, the tile map, let me duplicate those and move them down so we can see how they fit together. Implementing these looks like I'm off. It looks like those are off too. Yeah. There. Now they should fit tightly. Yes. And gotta keep them pixel perfect. Yeah. See, those are off too. There we go. And so now we can see that they're all pixel perfect and they fit there. So yeah. And let's see, did I cover everything? Photoshop basics, files in Unity, editing files, pixel art. So there's one more thing I think I would like to show you. And so I'm just gonna make a little change to the Hellbrick Blue, and I'll go down here into the very bottom, and you can see that there's a problem. And so now these are shape layers. You can see the shape icon here, but this is a regular old pixel layer. So these are pixels. So if I hold down Command and click, it'll reselect them all. Command D will deselect. And I can also, because I've got the pixel grid showing, I can see what's going on, and I can come in here and just select one pixel, and you can see my width and height is 1 by 1. And so if I just hold down the Command key, and anytime I say Command on a Mac, you can say Control on a PC, right? If I hold down the Command key and then use the arrow keys, I can move this thing around. If I hold Shift Command and use the arrow keys, it'll go 10 pixels every time. If I hold Command and Option, it duplicates. You can see my nudging happening here. And finally, if I hold Shift, or if I hold Command, Option, Shift, then I duplicate 10 pixels away. If I make a mistake, I just select these and delete them. They're all on this single pixel layer. If I wanted to, let's say, be safe in the change that I make, I can select these pixels, copy, paste. I made a new layer here, And this layer is, here it is. But all those same rules apply. I can come over here and select it, hold down Option, duplicate, and make a change. So I think I did a pretty good job. Notice how you have to zoom in and out to kind of see your work. Here's a cool trick for that. In Window, Workspace, or Arrange, you can say New Window for Helbrick Blue. All right, so now I'm going to make this into a separate window. So these are basically the same two versions of the same file here, and so Command tilde will tab between those. And so what I can do now is I can see the actual resolution. And I'm going to hide the grid. The actual resolution, 100%, versus the zoomed in 6400% resolution. And I can see what it looks like, right? And so you can see my little selection down there is tiny, just 1 pixel out of 128 wide. But there it is down there. Right? And so I can see my changes as I edit close up, zoomed in. I can see how they look. And so I just made those duplicates, and you can't really see them until you look very closely right over there. And as I hold this down, you can see those changes. And so whatever you do in pixel art in Photoshop, you have the pixel grid open, and use arrow keys and selection to move them pixels at a time, and have 2 views open, and then you can do pixel art really well. So cool. All right, so now I think this change that I just made is pretty good. So I'm gonna flatten these 2 layers by just holding them both and doing Command E. And now I've merged these together, and I'm just going to save this. And I'll go back over to Unity, and Unity is going to show me the updated one. You can see it's right there. This is the red one before I made the change, and here's the blue one. So it is fixed. It's not fixed in these other places, but I'll let those students take care of that. So I think I covered all the details. And now I want to see you make some of your own pixel art.